Hello and welcome to the Sacred Rainbow Current Global Online Summit, bringing together the multifaceted custodians of our planet and humanity to reveal deep truths, wisdom and tools to enable the guardianship of our planet for the future generations. Sacred protection, connection, and the holding of earthly and cosmic light portals is potent to humanity's highest timeline ascension. My name is Kerry Bridget McCrory, and I am your summit host and creator, airing from the Connie-Glen Valley in the Sperrin Mountains of Northern Ireland, Éiriú. My mountain is called Spatnaduya, and my river is the Connie-Glen Burn that gradually flows into the Owen Killieu River. Today, I am absolutely, truly delighted to introduce you all to Eimear Stassin. Eimear is from Dublin, Ireland, and lives in Falkirk, Scotland, with her husband, her 3 children, and border collie dog called Riley. Eimear is a Shanachie, an Irish sacred storyteller. Through her evolving work, she carries on the traditions of her Irish lineages as story weaver, poet and crafter of the true lore. Eimear's mission is to walk the sacred lands to which she feels called to activate the true stories rooted in the landscape and to share their stories. She invites people to journey deep into their inner landscape to remember the story of their precious soul. She is here to help heal the rift that keeps humanity separated from each other and from our inner truth, to heal the trauma out with and within order to access divine truth. She supports the ascension of humanity into and back home to new earth. She holds the torch for divine peace, equilibrium and harmony to reign as our ancient gifts come back online. And in 2024, she has founded the Irish Wisdom School. So I want Eimear to say a big hello to everybody.
Hi, Kerry. Gosh, thank you so much for this event and sharing your lands, your mountain, your river that flows into the sea. It's beautiful.
Yes. Oh, I'm so delighted to have you here and whatever's going to transpire today. And I just want to say before we go into our actual talk as well, which our talk today is called Voices of the Ancestors, Voices of the Land of Éiriú. And what are the voices, Eimear, of the ancestors and the land?
What a beautiful place to start. It's actually that phrase is actually a song that came through only a few weeks ago. The voices of the ancestors, voices of the land. And then a friend of mine, I shared it with a friend of mine, a very simple song. And then she added on, and she could hear this extra line weaving through the song, which is that we sing the songs of our inheritance. We sing the songs of our inheritance. So it's all about listening. As you read in my bio, being trusting where you're being called. I am trusting more where I'm being called to the lands. I live here in Scotland, and more I'm being called home to my birth home, my soul home of Éiriú, of Ireland. There's something about being on the land, barefoot, in the grass, in the bog, in the turf, in the mud, and feeling the hums, the songs, the vibration of her, and also all of the people, all of humanity and the beings that lived on that land, their stories, their voices, because there may have been times, many of them, where the voices weren't allowed to be freely expressed or spoken at all. So it's the ancestral voices, and that's coming through the land as the great primordial mother wishes to speak. And in my case, and perhaps our case, it's Ireland, it's Éiriú. What is she needing now? Why is she calling me, us, her children home to help heal, to help come back into wholeness, into balance, into harmony?
Yeah.
And if that means listening to the voices and singing them, expressing them, dancing them, then so it shall be.
Yeah. And I feel, Eimear, that the land very in a cosmic way, very strategically places people and their roots where we need to be. And I remember whenever I first come across you, Eimear, I didn't know that you had the Irish roots.
Really?
I knew that you lived in Scotland, and that came later. But even like people from all over the world were very strategically placed. I where we need to be. And what was I'm just wanted, because I do feel like there's a lot of Scotland energy in Ireland, and
Mm-hmm.
some of it's come through the plantation, but they're just a wee river away, really. It's hardly barely a sea,
Yeah.
so that there's this massive connection between the Celtic landscapes. And
Yeah.
what was the story that sort of took you to, this is my curiosity, took you to Scotland as well?
Well, it was actually a Scotsman, the
Love.
classic.
It was love.
It was love, the classic love story. Yeah, it
Uh-huh.
actually was. Because I had never been to Scotland before until the late 1990s. And I actually met my now husband, I met him in Dublin. We were doing a computer programming course. I laugh now because it got to the programming stuff and I thought, I'm out of here. I can't do this. So I met him on that, and we'd both finished our degrees and were looking for work. And I'd heard about this course in Dublin. My sister actually did it as well with me. And I ended up working in Dublin. It was my first job in a Japanese fund management company, actually. And it was great fun, great crack, and learned loads and started rising up the hierarchy of the career ladder. And after 2 years, it's like, I've had enough of this. This isn't the life I want to live. This is so intense. We were working hard, we were playing hard, and yeah, I knew there was more to life. So I said to my now husband, let's go travel around the world. Like I just knew this is the time now. I want to travel around the world. So it's amazing how easy we can do things. Handed in my notice, and within a few months, we were backpacking around the world for a year. So, in a long winded answer to your question, once I came back from traveling around the world, my husband knew he wanted, because, the bit I didn't add is he's Scottish. So, he knew he wanted to go back home to Scotland. He had done his time in Ireland, and I wanted an adventure. I wanted to continue on the adventure. So I went back to Dublin for 2 weeks and thought, no, I'm going to Scotland. So I upped and said goodbye to my mammy and went over to Scotland. And it was kind of easy because my sister lived here at the time. She lived in Edinburgh, so we could stay with her for a few weeks until we found our own place. But that was literally the calling. It was actually the call of adventure to continue on with that travel. And then I got a job, we got married, we had our family, and then you kind of stay here.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
A bit of a long story around the world that led me to Scotland.
Yeah.
Here
And
I
I think
am.
the Celtic roots are so interweaved because my own parents lived in the Isle of Man when I was born. So I started my early life in the Isle of Man and
Mm.
then come over here gradually. And even my husband, his mother was from Yorkshire. So I just, there is that interconnection of the land and the heart of the people. I feel that very, very much.
Yeah,
Now, I
yeah.
want to ask you, in what way are the ancestors calling humanity? How do you feel about that, Eimear?
Yeah, I really feel, and I know people watching this and tuning in will know this in their bones as well, that we really are being called to heal. We're here in our physical form, so we're being called, and I really feel this for myself, to allow what needs to come through me, wash through me, filter through me like a great big sieve, to allow that to happen so we can help heal what our ancestors didn't have the opportunity to heal, or what was left unresolved. So like there's so much trauma. There's the witch burnings, the persecutions of the Cathars, the Essenes, and we have our own colonial story in Ireland, the suppression, the wiping out, or the attempted wiping out of the Irish language, our indigenous tongue. So I feel the ancestors are really on our case now, to listen to them, to listen to their voices in whatever way resonates for people, and to heed their call, to be their vessel, to be their voice now. So whether that's because I'm here in Scotland, and lately I go, why was I called here? I know it was that call of adventure that we spoke about, but why Scotland? And now I live in Falkirk, which is central Scotland, so I'm in the centre.
Right,
And
very interesting. I didn't know that. I wasn't sure if you were near Edinburgh or so in the
yeah,
centre.
yeah, so it's not far from Edinburgh. It's where we first moved, was Edinburgh. But the whole witch awakening that I went through in 2020 was a huge part of my personal healing, but also the healing of the lands of Scotland. So, not to big myself up or anything, I'd never do that. However, I feel it was a key aspect to support the healing of the witch persecution. And I know many people are doing this work, either visibly or behind the scenes. So, part of my being planted here is to support that, in this instance, the healing of the witch persecution. And
Yes.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
other things that have played out in the land, like the
And
Highland
that's
clearances.
yeah, and that's when I first come across you, Emer, back in 2020. And it was is it the what was the name of it? The witch awakening,
Healing the witch wound.
healing the witch wound. And
Yeah.
I remember, whenever I was watching it, just feeling oh my God, the deepness of it, the deepness and seeing the light in you, the authenticity
Mm.
coming through you to really bring this back into the light. That's what I'm going to say, because it was so powerful. It was so, I remember really being shook up by it, and I'm so glad you did that. Because every single one of us has, why do we have this issue, even with the word witch? Like I know, like some of my own close ones would have joked I was like the white witch, and you were sort of like, you were pushing it back. Or if they said the word witch, you sort of it brought like a rage up. And it's like, well, what's that about? Because if you actually go into the witch is the wise one. The witch is the holy one. The witch is the connected one. So it's I've I think I've told a lot of people about you since then, Eimear. Because it is the work. It is the work. And
Yeah.
like you say, I really believe that we're strategically placed in our place. And Edinburgh Castle, isn't it built near volcanic
Yeah.
rock?
Yeah, right on top of the volcanic rock. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's such a portal. It's such a fire portal.
Mhm.
And that's where they say 300 witches were burnt at the stake there, and the castle esplanade. And who knows how much more than the numbers, than what we've counted. So it was a massive place of power and of trauma and horror that was embedded in the land and the people as well, because it's such beauty there, such a beautiful city, and there's so much density. And I feel that is loosening now. More and more people are talking about witch and claiming that title. So the word, there's healing happening around the word as the wounds are healing, and we're remembering our magic. We're remembering that holiness that you spoke of and that wise one within us.
Yeah. And I feel, you know, a lot of female models, either they're accepted when we're in servitude, when we're not in our power, but a lot of the feminine powerful aspect, it's sort of like it's placed away from us. It's like it's untouchable. And you know, you can see that with the witch, but also, you know, it's like the Mother Mary. She's so holy. It's sort of she's become maybe for some of us untouchable. And this sort of like an element of allowing ourselves to discover, well, what is the real witch? Who is the real Mary? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What I'm saying?
Yeah.
Possibly.
It absolutely does, because as you're speaking, I'm thinking of it's how much these archetypes have either been persecuted or sanitized, you know. And if you think of Bridget, you know, the gorgeous goddess Bridget, and her as the pagan and now her as the saint, or like the Cailleach witch, the creator of the Celtic lands. There's so many stories of persecution around her, and also trying to gain power over her and trick her and steal her wealth. There's a lot of stories around that. So that whole witch awakening that I went through and enabled me to release and rage and, you know, release a lot of that anger and help heal it and speak and heal my throat chakra. And it has actually led me to Mary and the Magdalens, which is like, I would not have known that, or, you know, known I had any connection with the Magdalens. But ultimately, it has led me, as well as leading me home to Éiriú, to Ireland, it's led me to this deeper connection of love with the Magdalens as a circle, as a collective that are here now, stronger than ever, to support us.
All the strands underneath are connecting in.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is
And
amazing.
you just, you know, so many people say this, but like, would we write that? I mean, it just takes me by surprise all the time, which is what I love, actually. And that's what draws me in and keeps me interested, is like, oh, what, this now? You know? And I was traveling up the north of Scotland the other few days, and felt such a connection with the voices of the ancestors there and the land in relation to the Highland clearances of the people that were forcibly removed off the land so that the landlords could graze their sheep, and then they were rehoused by the coast. So they were a mountain crofting people who were then forced to move to the coast on smaller plots of land and then adapt to providing for themselves there. So it's like another aspect of the wounding that's coming up for me to acknowledge and speak and sing and free. Yeah.
Yeah, there's been so much displacements of people all over the world.
Yes.
So much ripping away from what is deeply embedded in our soul and what we really, really love. It's, you know, there's been a lot of pain. There has been. But I'm going to say, but we're awakening, but we're healing that, but we're claiming that.
Yeah. And we get to talk about it together now, which is amazing.
Yeah. So What is your connection with the sacred landscape of self and home, particularly in the land of Éiriú?
Janie Mac, these are deep questions, aren't they? Well, the connection with self. So maybe you'll resonate with this, Kerry, growing up in Ireland, and that I grew up in Dublin, and my parents are from the southwest of Ireland, so I very much identify as the Munster part of me is very strong, Cork and Kerry.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it's kind of like you take it for granted growing up in Ireland and the gifts that being Irish brings, the culture, the language, the storytelling, our quirkiness of what it means to be Irish. But it's really something more that I've contemplated the older I get as to who am I. I actually wrote a poem a few years ago on St. Patrick's Day because it was a contemplation about who am I now when I'm Irish on this day and when the whole world celebrates being Irish. But who am I? So I am Irish, but what does that mean? Who am I when I'm Irish today? So it has brought me deeper into that exploration and acknowledgement of the gifts that I have, of claiming the stories within me as being a natural storyteller that wasn't always welcomed when I worked in the corporate deadline driven world. There wasn't the space always for the stories that I would love to tell. It was like, no, there's no time. We've got these deadlines to meet and these meetings to go to. So it's really helped me slow down and honor my voice as one of the voices in my lineage, my Irish lineage that goes way, 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 way back. Hundreds of years, probably. It's been traced back to the 1600s, probably longer. And with that comes the healing, but also the joy and the fun of what wants to be expressed. So I talked about that song coming through, the voices of the ancestors, and these little gems of wisdom that are like mantras or chants come through now, because the more I open my emerald crystalline heart, the more wisdom is enabled to flow through me as just one vessel of many billions of people that are awakening now. So it feels for me like a great honor to be able to honor my lineage in this life, and with that the healing and the ascension. And also there's part of me that feels that it is my duty to honor them and to be their voice as well. Because if I don't step forth, then who will? Because each one of our stories, our wisdom, what we're here to share is so unique in our ancestry, in our lineage, that there is a choice. Of course, there's a choice, there's free will. And it is my duty that I have committed to be the voice and to be guided as to where I must go next, to be guided to where and who I am in any moment. Yeah, it's very deep, very deep.
Yeah, and you've been taken like Eimear deeper and deeper and deeper into the roots of the actual ancestors. As you were beginning to speak at the beginning, I sort of had like this image of like, say, the men on the mountains smoking their pipe and enjoying the scenery, and the way that we have lost that pace of life.
Yes.
Even if you look at the farmers now, I'm sure the farming life is not what it was hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
And maybe the women in their baking and they had time to contemplate, and within you making space and time for yourself, you have been able to like you say, stilling your own landscape, stilling your own landscape so you can bring in the wisdom of the deeper ancestral lineages. Now, I was going to ask about, because it's so hard to explain this to people, but whenever you first visit the really, really ancient sites and portals, so I would say many people in Ireland haven't even heard of them, never mind visited them themselves. You know,
Absolutely.
so all these sacred places through the Celtic lands that are dotted through your landscapes, can you remember your first like connection with that or visit or?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that, because that's actually what I was seeing. Like, from what I shared and you've reflected back, it has been a pilgrimage. It has been a sacred pilgrimage home. So this great homecoming, and the first place, and I Newgrange is the first place that for me is a key player in my awakening. And I think it was 2015 when I went there, 2016, because it was my son's 5th birthday. And what do you do on your son's 5th birthday? Let's all go to Ireland and we'll go to Newgrange. Yay! He would not do that now. And yeah, so it was Newgrange, which we would have gone on a school tour there. Growing up, in primary school, probably. So that was such a sacred remembrance for me, because irrespective of the story they tell on the tour there, the tour guides are amazing. And we all can connect to our story when we go home, when we go back home to these places. For me, it was like this, a rebirthing within the womb of Newgrange, within Bowen's womb, Bruna Bowen, yeah. And yeah, it was like the golden sun was reawakening my cells by going inside this chamber that is cruciform in shape or womb shaped. And at the very back is the triple spiral carved into one of the orthostats. It's a very special, sacred place. And when I visited that time with my 3 children, my son wanted to be first inside the chamber, because you have to do a tour. So you're with quite a large tour of maybe 20 people in a small space. So I was delighted. So we ushered ourselves up to the front and we're just behind the tour guide. And honestly, when we stepped in, it was like time stood still. And I took a breath in, and it was like I was breathing in this sacred air of our ancestors, the very same air, because not a drop of water has come into that chamber in the 5,500 years that it's been there. And the roof is like a beehive, and it's corbelled. The stone is corbelled. There's no cement or anything that wasn't around then, but it's bone dry. So this is the same air that we're breathing of our ancestors. And it was that moment of, oh, chills and remembrance of being here, of being in community here, and honoring this space as a kind of resurrection chamber. Like, you've been to Egypt, like in Egypt. And I reached out and touched one of the stones, one of the orthostats behind me, and it was so cold. And it was like this shoop, almost like electricity through me of remembrance, like, hello stone, hello sacred story keeper. And then they do this reenactment of, because it's aligned to this time of year when your event is going out, it's aligned to the winter solstice sun. And they do this reenactment of this amazing spectacle. They turn off all the lights inside the chamber and then shine a torch in to show how the sun creeps up the narrow passageway. And then as they were doing that, my son with his little 5-year-old foot and has stuck his foot out onto the light. And it was really symbolic for me, like, oh, he is stepping back into the light. So yeah, it was a very sacred reclamation and
So beautiful.
initiation.
Yeah, it was just absolutely so beautiful. And it was an initiation whenever you were talking about it and you shared it. And you know what else? The other thing that struck me very, very much about everything you were saying was, whenever you think of the element of air, we don't usually think of stillness.
Mm.
That's so deep. That's so unusual. Usually when you think of air, maybe we think of like the wind and change and blowing but to actually, there's something very sacred about that, to connect with, like, I'm going to call it the holy stillness of
Mm.
air on that level. And isn't that interesting, the way that that took you into something to do with the roots of the whole earth? You
Yeah.
know, it's just, like I knew as you were talking, that was an initiation. And it's so beautiful as well that, that it's connected to Mother Earth, but also your wee son, the way that he, all these things, all these no, not everybody's open to the symbolic, but some of us just we get it straight away.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
so powerful. I'm so glad you shared that.
Yeah, yeah, and that
Uh-huh.
earthy, like because it's the earthen floor and it's that earthy, dry air that we're breathing in. Yeah, it really felt very ancient.
And I didn't know as well, you said about, and I never even would have thought of that, that there hasn't been a drop of water
Yeah.
in that vicinity for years and years and years. And I know with a group of people a couple of years ago, I was doing some work where I was meeting the elements on a deeper level. And it was actually with the water. So it was with the water. And I remember, I'm trying to remember, oh, why the first day it was into the cold river. So that you had the energy of the running river. Then the second day we were in the sea. So it was like sea and sauna. And the energy of the different waterways, that is so, so different. But the other thing that struck me was on the last day, we also visited like an ancient sacred well. It was outside, like up near the north coast, an old church or chapel. And what really struck me about that was the stillness again, the stillness of the well and the water, the ancientness that we all have this. you know. So it's just so beautiful to see, like you saying about the air. And what else is going on? What's the other elements? Well, the fire,
Yeah,
everything's on fire.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that water, honoring of the water that you share, that's so beautiful as well. And drinking from that well water, we're drinking that stillness and the memories encoded in the water.
Yeah.
That's
And you
really
sort of think of it as it's flowed through everything. It's flowed through the earth to
yeah,
be,
yeah.
to be still.
And there actually was, someone told me a few years ago, there was a natural spring that flowed inside Newgrange, and it was about 5 orthostats in up the narrow passageway. There was actually a spring there, and they rerouted it so tourists wouldn't get wet. So the water is still is honored there, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, the actual chamber is
Yeah.
dry.
And they would have said that about the ancient sites in Egypt as well. A lot of them, that the waterways are underneath, that they're built with the whole connection in zinc, you know.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. So it's all the energy, so the energy continues to flow. Yeah.
Yeah. So you guide people around the Irish medicine wheel. Which Irish goddess do you most resonate with and why?
It's tough, isn't it? It's like picking a favorite child, or a kind of um so the ones that have probably there's favorite ones and there's ones that I've had deep teachings from. And I wonder who wants to be spoken about. Well, I just want to share as well, because going on this pilgrimage and connecting to where you live in the Sperrin Mountains and these sacred spaces, it was actually, I wanted to run events in Ireland, but the guidance I got was that I have to go through the north of Ireland first. So it was horse goddess Macha that I began to journey with and build a relationship with, because she was someone that I had not known. I was very connected with Bowen at Newgrange and her time of winter solstice. So I guess it's Macha that wants to be to be spoken about today, because I have been, it was actually August time where I had the honor of co-hosting a retreat at Owen Macha, Armagh Navan Fort in Armagh in the Kingdom of Ulster. And this is the sacred space of horse goddess Macha. And she is such a powerful deity. And I feel she really stirs the cauldron to guide us into the darkest time of the year in the wheel of the year, because her place on the wheel is autumn equinox. And then she works, so in the west of the medicine wheel, so connected to the ancestors, connected to the wild Atlantic waters, and also her places in the north of Ireland, the northerly direction. And I feel she works with the other goddesses of the darkness, the Cailleach witch, and also Clochta, who's a very ancient goddess too, goddess of Samhain. And well, you know Macha's story, but her story is very tragic in one way and hopeful in the other way, because she had the most amazing gift, as they do. And her gift was her ability to run faster than any horse in Ireland. And she wed her husband and became pregnant with twins. And she made her husband promise never to tell anyone of her existence, and as well as that, of her gifts, her abilities to run faster than any horse. And he agreed. And then he went off to an assembly with the Ulster men and the King Conchobar Macnassa. And then there they were at the assembly, having the crack, having the fun. And horse racing has always been a big part of Irish culture. So there was going to be horse racing, and the king's horses always won the races. Doesn't sound very fair to me. And Macha's husband could not help but blurt out, "Well, my wife can run faster than any horse in Ireland." Oh no, I shouldn't have said it, but it was out, it was said, it was spoken. And the king heard this and was like, "What did you say?" "My wife can run faster than any horse in Ireland. Oh no, I'm in deep trouble." "Bring her here," said the king. "Oh no, I can't. She's pregnant. She's about to give birth and she can't come here to this assembly." "Bring her here." And he sent some of his Red Branch Knight soldiers to go get her. And she traveled on horseback. And if she didn't race the horses, her husband would be killed. So she was brought to the assembly over days and night on horseback with her huge pregnant belly. And she had that choice. Do I allow the death of my husband, or do I race the horses and risk injuring myself? So she put herself at risk. She raced the horses. She did indeed run faster than any horse in Ireland as the ultimate horse goddess, with her strength and her endurance and her power. And then at the finish line, she fell down and birthed her twins. Owen Macha, another translation, are the twins of Macha, represented at her sacred site by the two great mounds, the two grassy mounds, which are huge and really powerful, the twins. So her twins were birthed, and she, in her final breath, sang out or shrieked out and ended up putting a curse on the men of Ulster, only the men of Ulster, that in their hour of need, that they experience the pangs and the pain of childbirth, and they are struck down with a weakness and unable to fight or go to battle. And that curse was to be for 9 generations. And these are ancient stories of the Tuatha Dé Danann, which are timeless. You know, there's no date for them. They're ancient, ancient fairy beings. And if you look at Ireland, the island of Ireland, and consider what has played out there in relation to colonialism, in relation to the rift, in relation to the separation of 6 counties from the motherland, this is my opinion, my perspective, a line through the island of Ireland, which could be the head, like the crown, the head, the throat. It's almost like this severance that has gone on in Ireland since 1922. And this separation from the mother.
Yeah.
And the help had to come from the south, because the men of Ulster were weakened through the mythology, through Macha's curse. And that's why Cú Chulainn plays such a big part, the great warrior who came and fought in the battle and saved the day, apparently. But then Macha dies. And in some stories, so do her twins. In other stories, they don't die. And it's very, very sad. And when I was there on her sacred site and we were journeying deep into the land, into the mounds, and I could see these ancient indigenous beings that were inside, very earthy, very brown and earthy, and they were drumming. They are drumming, they are singing, they are calling us home and calling for peace and for this rift to heal. And also what I saw was Macha urging us, commanding us to lay down our arms. So for Ireland and for everywhere around the globe, lay down our arms. And so that she now, the mother, the pure divine mother, has the opportunity to be that mother for her children. And I could see her mothering her twins and singing a lullaby. This lullaby started to come out through me during one of the journeys, and it was singing her children home, that now we are healing, we are mothering, we are parenting, and yeah, we are having the opportunity to live in the way that we are meant to, and thus the curse is dissolved. It's gone. Yeah. It's pretty.
I can really feel that. I can really feel
pretty
that
intense,
story so deeply. Yes. And it's like I can feel the ache, the pain, and I'm so glad, that you've brought it round at the end to how we're healing that. It's such a powerful, powerful story. And even, whenever you said, I've never thought of the separated Ireland, like it's the head, maybe the head, but definitely like the wound is in the head, because like Mother Earth has no borders. That's all in the human head.
Yeah.
There's no border. She is one body. She is one sun. She is one being.
Yeah.
Like so the wound is literally in the head.
That's so true.
But you're not going to actually believe this, Eimear, but I haven't had the chance to go there yet. And whenever you began to talk of, I can't even say her name again. Say her name again. When
Macha.
you started to talk of Macha, she wouldn't be one that I am as familiar with. But whenever you were saying her name, for some reason, what was coming to me was she's been run into the ground. They're running her into the ground. That was the one thing. I knew there was something about her, and they're running this feminine energy into the ground.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Chills.
it's it's been the story of how many thousands of years now that the feminine energy has been run into the ground, that it hasn't been about valuing our gifts, that it's been about entertainment, and even, in all ways of society, how, maybe people are about, instead of it being about what's in our authentic self, we're about how we look. It's not real. It's
Yeah.
it's not feeding our truest potentials. So and also, like, the land of Northern Ireland, through other groups have been with as well, and we've walked the landscape. What I will say to you, Eimear, coming from where I come from, the Isle of Man, for the first 6 or 7 years of my life, into Ireland, and the troubles were on and things were happening in Northern Ireland. But I would have found myself very I suppose I held it off. I'm like, you think of the red hand of Ulster, like, here's his hand, like, I pushed it back. And then things that were related to our culture and different things for a long time, I felt like things were hijacked. But it's all of us. It doesn't belong to one per group of peoples, or like our ancestral roots and gifts, they belong to all of us. But one of the things, we did a lot of walking around Donegal. We were doing, actually, it was like an exchange. So there was the O'Neills of Tyrone and the O'Donnells of the Donegal, and we were doing these inter-exchanges, visiting different sites, and, you know, learning about the history and different things that happened. But I remember, there was sort of like a resistance in me, sort of like, because I would be holistically minded and I'm fighting and I'm not interested. But, I became aware. The only way I can put it to you is I became aware of the blood that is soaked through war into the landscapes. It's our land is ringing of this blood. And, that this is the work that you're doing, the cleansing, the clearing, the dissolving,
Mm.
bringing that back into like nutritious soil. There's something of that going on. And then we can bring back in the feminine, the life-giving blood, that it is, like it was in the indigenous cultures, valued again, and, given its rightful place. But
Yeah.
I will be going to these mountains. I'm sitting there. But,
Beautiful.
and you are a Shanachie. You are like, you really took me there, Eimear.
Thank you. Well, it's because it's like Macha called me and I was like, I want to go to Ireland. And, I know Dublin, I know Dingle and Cork and Kerry. And then it's like, you're going to Armagh. I'm like, no, I'm not. I don't. What right have I to go there? What right have I to tell her stories? And you've really answered that with these are everyone's stories. And it was, yes, part of my healing and bringing the people to support everyone's healing. It was very, very intense, actually, because there's that volatility that I could feel on the land and the pure sacredness. Oh, and then we went to the Begmore Stone Circles in Tyrone, which I know you're familiar with.
Uh-huh.
And that was like, oh, a whole other star energy. That was so much fun and oh, the connection to the cosmos. It was like really, yeah, really powerful stone and star energy going there.
Yeah, and it's interesting because this is known as the dark sky area.
Yeah.
This is, and last night even, I went to go to my bed and I went outside because there's no moon, because we're in a new moon presently. It was like, oh my God, just the stars. They just fill you up. You could just spend hours gazing And, you know, to think that every blade of grass, every plant, every stone is infused with that ancient energy. You know, it's so beautiful. Oh, my heart, see my heart here now, just talking to you today. My heart is like full. It's like, it's part of my heart's hurting, but I think that's it, acknowledging healing or something as well, you know, because it's just the depth and the power of what's been shared here today.
Yeah.
It's all expanding. It's all heart expanding on all levels. It's incredible.
Yeah. And that's what I feel like she wants, like Éiriú and the land of Ireland is for our hearts to open because they've been closed down for protection and all of that. And now it's like open our hearts to each other. And oh, we don't have to close them anymore. We can open them and let all this flow through to heal, to be witness to each other and
Yeah.
our stories.
Oh, it's deep. It's incredible.
Yeah. It feels very liberating as well, actually.
Is there anything else, Eimear, that you would like to share today with our listeners?
I feel like we've actually gone on the whole journey, and whatever has come up for each of the listeners, for each of you listening here, it's spend time with that. We spoke of the stillness and that silence and the land and the water and all the elementals, and spend time with what arises here and listen in to where you're being called to be as well. Like where is your heart? Where is that tug? Where is your heart calling you forth to step into? And know that the support is there. Oh my goodness, there's so much support now. So yeah, and thank you honestly for this event and for all that you're doing. And I love that we're connecting in this way.
Well, and I feel as well, Eimear, if you hadn't have shone your light from the very beginning, you know, that I wouldn't be here today. That's how important your light is in opening our hearts and helping us to share our authentic selves, you know. I want to mention as well, Eimear, your free gift is the sacred story. This is beautiful now coming up to the winter solstice. The sacred story of the Cailleach witch, journey to meet the Cailleach witch at her home of Loch Crew. And Eimear's details are going to be below this airing today. So make sure everybody, sure, I don't even have to tell people, they'll all be racing to where can I find this lady and her sharings. So make sure to do that. And just to say to everybody, thank you so much for listening in today, for being present. And it's been amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kerry.